Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching my talk. My name is Matt Bertone. I'm at NC State University, and today I'd like to just show some of the photos of flies that I've taken during the pandemic, basically 2020 and 2021. Unfortunately, lots of other activities were halted, but it's nice to get outside and take some photos of some beautiful flies. So I live in North Carolina, USA, and all the photos you'll see today were taken in North Carolina. North Carolina, the state is fairly large and has several types of ecosystems. In the western part of the state, we have some mountains, including the Appalachians. I live in the central part of the state here in Wake County, which is part of the Piedmont with clay soil. The coastal plain and the coastal areas have very sandy soils and scrubby habitats, really beautiful areas all throughout North Carolina. So throughout the talk, I'll have a little map on each slide to show you where I actually took the photo. But I'd like to go through a few of these flies and hopefully you enjoy them. Okay, so at home. Of course, many of us were stuck at home during the pandemic, having to self-isolate. So not a lot of chances necessarily to see things, but sometimes things would actually fly into the house, and it was really nice to see. The first was this beautiful black soldier fly, Hermetia illucens. I was sitting at a table doing work and saw this fly in. We do have a compost bin in our yard, and there's a lot of organic matter around the neighborhood, so these flies develop quite well in North Carolina. Another fly that was very happy to fly into the house was this nice little robber fly in the genus Omadius. This is my first time ever photographing this genus of robber fly, so I was very excited to get it in the house. So really happy that flies were coming to me as well. Now, one of the coolest things I saw actually during the pandemic was a mass emergence and mating swarms of minute black scavenger flies. These were found in my workshop, which is basically an enclosed area connected to the outside. And these were crawling up on the door of my workshop, and you can see multiple pairs mating all together. It was a really great sight to see, as I really enjoy this family of flies. And here's just a close-up of another mating pair. Out in my yard, I was unfortunate enough to get bitten, but also fortunate enough to get photos of a few blood-feeding Diptera. The tiger mosquitoes were very common in the yard. This introduced species is a very aggressive day biter. That's Aedes albopictus. Very common, and you can see this one was full up on my blood and was actually excreting some of the extra fluids. I was also quite surprised one day to see some small fly biting me. I didn't exactly know what it was, but once I got my camera and went outside again and attracted some more, I was able to photograph it, and it was in fact a black fly, which I was surprised, being that my neighborhood is not by any well-oxygenated streams, but there's a lot of water nearby. Out in the yard also, there was some yellow dung flies flying around and alighting on leaves. This is a beautiful male yellow dung fly, Scatophagus stercoraria. Now, if you don't want to search for the insects, you can set up a light. And so in August of 2020, I set up a black light and a mercury vapor light at my house to attract different types of insects. We had a number of insects come, and some of them were really beautiful little fungus gnats, true fungus gnats like this Neolympharia over here, as well as several types of predatory fungus gnats, including this very nice, the first time I'd ever seen a Procaroplatus predatory fungus gnat. Along with the fungus gnats, of course, lots of chironomid midges would come. My favorite were these Ablobesmaya. They are interesting little mottled midges whose larvae are predatory. Now, almost the size of some of those fungus gnats, but generally this group is larger, were crane flies. We had several crane flies come to the lights. And this small crane fly, Areoptera parva, was so small, I just had to take a picture of it next to my finger. Nobody believes that these crane flies are that small. Now, we did have several other limoniine crane flies come to the lights, including this Atypithalamus, which is actually new for the Nearctic. And luckily, some Rapidia domestica came because I and another colleague have been working on this species for publication. So it's really nice to have extra specimens. And as with the black soldier fly earlier on, we do have some of the yellow soldier flies, the Technicus trivitatus, which are very common at our compost bins as well. Now, off to the side of the black lights or the UV lights was this really beautiful specimen of a red-legged cannibal fly, a type of robber fly, Promachus rufibes. These are very large bee or wasp mimics, and I saw several actually that year out during the summer. However, one of my favorites, actually my favorite of that night of light trapping, was this tiny male biting midge in the genus Forsythia. Although it was only about 1 millimeter or so long, once I was able to get some really close-up photos and blow it up on the computer, I saw these beautiful golden scales on it and these wing patterns and those really fluffy antennae. Just a very nice looking fly. And Stratopagonids are one of my favorite anyway. Okay, so other than staying at home, it was nice to go out to some natural areas. Both the areas I went to in this set of photos are local deciduous forests with rivers and streams close by. So a little wet, a little humid, deciduous forests, both Swift Creek Bluffs Nature Preserve and Schenck Forest. So, of course, I always have to photograph crane flies. This is a very large female Tupula that was resting on a leaf. You know, always impressive to see. I also was able to find a nice mating pair of Dichronoptica crane flies. This area is, like I said, wet and moist. There's a lot of good habitat for the larvae of crane flies. Now, like I showed before, a tiny crane fly, this was a giant gall midge. This was on a dead log and probably looking for oviposition sites, but this midge was about the size of that tiny crane fly at about 1 centimeter long, which is fairly large for a gall midge, as you all probably know. Now, in these woods as well, when you pick off bark, you find all different types of larvae. And in this one situation, this was in Schenck Forest, I pulled off the bark of a few trees and found these bright orange or red or pink gall midge larvae or wood midges in the family Cystidomyidae, as well as a dark-winged fungus gnat larva. And there were many other larvae, especially beetle larvae as well, under the bark of these dead trees. Another one that I found during those hunts was this beautiful predatory fungus gnat larva in the family Caroplatidae. And this is a really nice picture because it illustrates the terminal, the papillae on the terminal end to diagnose the larvae of this family of fungus gnats. And you can see it's living on this nice silk and mucusy kind of bed below this fungus where they collect spores and small arthropods. One of my favorite March flies was present in October. It's a fall species, Penthetria heteroptera. The males and females are quite distinct. The males having this large bulbous head with these large eyes and the smaller eyes in the female. This is one of my favorite March flies. It's not very adorned, but it's this beautiful black all through, even the wings are black. And again, common in the fall. Now, there were many robber flies when I was out and about, this little tiny Adamosia. There were several specimens lighting on stumps of pines and logs. And this one in the center has stabbed in the face what looks like a frit fly or some other acalyptrid fly. So these tiny robber flies were out hunting and found lots of other ones, especially a couple species of Epheria and this nice little Elafria that's one of the darker species, not one of the bee mimics. This larger Epheria that I found at Swift Creek Bluffs was actually feeding on a bee. Among the leaf litter, I saw a really nice large hoverfly, Milisia virginiensis. You can see here extending its ovoscape to lay some eggs in the leaf litter where its larvae will develop. And on the tree, I saw this really beautiful iridescent green copostylum hoverfly. It was just hanging out for a while on this trunk and was allowing me to take lots of photos, and very happy to be able to do so. On the leaves, I would always look for flies, and this bird dropping attracted a lot of chlorophids in the genus Gaurax. It looks like there are 2 species here, according to Julia Winterick, who helped me confirm the IDs on them. And you can see them, some of them are quite bloated with fluids from feeding on this bird feces. So an interesting little congregation of flies. Because this is a moist habitat and aquatic habitat, there were lots of marsh flies, including this limnea, this really beautiful limnea with these striped eyes, these patterned wings. And then also some Diptera were around and other species that I did not get to photograph. Lastly, there were some heliomyzid flies in the genus Suilia. These were some other acalyptrids in the forests, fairly common. And I was also able to see for the first time members of the genus Microdrosophila, which are this genus of drosophilids that are fungal specialists. And you can see this one on the right being on some a puffball fungus that's developing on a rotting log. As far as calyptrates, found several tachinids, including these 2. I apologize for not being able to identify them as genus, but tachinids are not my specialty, but I do enjoy photographing them. However, this one was a real treat. The Zelia vertebrata was patrolling a log with many large holes in it to look for its hosts, which are beetle larvae. Okay, now I did spend some time in the North Carolina mountains where my parents have a house. It's a beautiful region of the state, and I took a few photos there, including this nice mating pair of hoverflies in the genus Toxomerus. This Drosophila suzukii, checking out the wild blackberries. The blackberries were very abundant and very thorny, and I happened to catch this nice Drosophila there when I was photographing. Also, this beautiful blue iridescent Eudasyphora musket fly. These are really only found, I photographed them a few times in the mountains, but they're only found in the mountains of North Carolina. You can't really find them anywhere else in the state. So it's a treat to see them when I'm out there. Finally, I'm gonna wrap up with a few of my favorites. So the first was my first encounter with a Midas fly when I had my camera. I had seen Midas flies a couple times over the past couple decades, but we went to visit some friends in a safe manner, and my friend alerted me that he had this large, what he thought was a robber fly hanging out by his tomatoes, but it turned out to be a Midas fly, and actually stayed there and I was able to get some photos of it. So I was really pleased to get some photos of these very large flies. After vacationing down at the beach, or during the vacation at the beach, I went to a natural area in the very sandy coastal habitats, and there were all these asters flowering and had these very tiny bombyliids, these very tiny bee flies all over them in the genus Pusillinathus. And I was really delighted to see those all over the place with those cute little beaks. One of my favorite flies I've encountered in quite some time, it was this peacock fly. This was actually up in the mountains. It landed on the railing of my parents' porch. And as I was outside, I got to see it and observe it dancing around and was able to snap some photos of it. And it's just such a beautiful fly. I don't think there's anyone out there who doesn't think this is such a charismatic species. And finally, I was very, very fortunate to get a specimen from a master gardener in the northeastern part of the state, this rabbit botfly. She had emailed me photos to confirm what it was, and I asked her if she still had it, and she actually did. So she shipped it to me, where I was able to get these live photos. I wish I had seen it myself out in nature, but just having these photos of this rabbit botfly are really fantastic, and it's such a wonderful little critter. Of course, it's got a disgusting lifestyle, especially if you're a rabbit, but look at how beautiful it is. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and please email me if you have any questions or comments or anything like that. And I hope you get out to see some flies of your own. Thank you.